I was wiping tables at Murphy's Diner for what felt like the 100th time that week when the most expensive car I'd ever seen rolled into our gravel parking lot. Working as a waitress while putting myself through community college wasn't glamorous, but it covered my expenses, just barely. What I didn't expect was for a billionaire CEO to walk into our small-town diner and sign a check using a signature I recognized from a faded photo I'd kept since childhood. A signature belonging to the man my mother told me had died before I was born. Before we continue, tell me, how old were you when you met your first love? Share your story in the comments and subscribe for more narratives about unexpected truths and the relationships that shape our lives. Now, let me take you back to that ordinary Tuesday that changed everything. At 24, I thought I understood where my life was headed. I worked the morning shift at Murphy's Diner in Millbrook, a quiet upstate New York town where nothing unusual happened. The pay was low, but the tips helped cover tuition at the local community college where I studied business administration. My plan was straightforward. Finish my degree, save enough to transfer to a 4-year university, and eventually start my own company. I lived with my mom, Linda, in the same small apartment we'd shared my whole life. She worked as a seamstress at a dry cleaner and raised me alone after my father supposedly died in a car accident while she was pregnant. At least, that was the story I grew up with. The only thing I had of him was a photograph I discovered in one of her old books when I was 7. 2 teenagers standing by a lake, clearly in love. The back read, "Linda, you are my whole world. I will love you forever, Garrett." The signature was distinct. A bold G followed by smooth, flowing letters. I asked my mom about the photo once, but she got so upset I never mentioned it again. Still, I kept the picture hidden in my jewelry box, tracing that signature so often I could recreate it from memory. That Tuesday began like any other. I arrived at the diner at 6 a.m. to prepare for the breakfast rush. Murphy's was an old-school place, red vinyl booths, checkered floors, and a menu unchanged since the 80s. Our regular customers were truckers, construction workers, and retirees who came for coffee and conversation. I was refilling the coffee station when my manager, Pete, approached with an unusual request. "Kate, take the back booth today. A businessman booked it for a private meeting at 10. He's paying extra." "What kind of businessman?" I asked. Corporate visitors weren't common in Millbrook. "No idea," Pete said. "Doesn't matter. Just keep him comfortable and keep the coffee coming." Right at 10, a black sedan with tinted windows pulled up. A sharply dressed man in his early 50s stepped out, tall, confident, with salt and pepper hair. Even from across the room, I could tell his suit cost more than I earned in a day. "Season." He entered with quiet authority, scanning the diner before taking the reserved booth. I approached with a menu and a coffee pot. "Good morning, I'm Kate. Can I start you with coffee?" "Please," he said in a calm, refined voice. Despite his wealth, he seemed approachable. "Thanks for arranging the privacy. I realize this isn't the Four Seasons." "Murphy's has its own charm," I replied, pouring his coffee. "Expecting someone?" "Yes, my attorney. We have sensitive business matters to discuss." I nodded and stepped away. Something about him felt familiar. His profile, his posture, but I couldn't place it. 20 minutes later, the attorney arrived, and they spoke quietly for 2 hours about contracts and acquisitions. I refilled their drinks and served lunch while giving them space. When I returned to refill coffee again, the man pulled out a gold pen and began signing documents. I saw the signature clearly and froze. The coffee pot slipped from my hands and shattered. "I apologize," and rushed to the back for cleaning supplies, barely hearing Pete's questions. I needed another look. Returning to the booth, I saw him signing another page. The bold G, the flowing letters, the exact signature from the photograph I'd kept for 17 years. "Sir," I whispered, "my father's signature." He looked up, confused. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your signature. It matches my father's, but he died before I was born." His face went pale. He stared at me, really studying me. My hair, my eyes, my features. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Kate Baker." "And your mother?" "Linda Baker." His pen slipped from his hand and hit the floor. He gripped the table, stunned. "Linda Baker. From Buffalo?" "Yes, why?" "How old are you?" "I turned 24 last week." "Oh my God," he whispered. "You're her daughter. You're my daughter." My mind spun. "That's impossible. My father died in a car accident. That's what my mom told me." He shook his head, voice strained. "Kate, my name, 17. When I fell in love with your mother. We planned to marry after graduation, but her parents didn't approve." "Garrett Kane," I repeated. "As in Kane Industries?" He nodded. "Your mother disappeared," he said. "Her family told me she moved and didn't want to see me anymore. She moved here to Millbrook. She was pregnant." His expression collapsed. "She was pregnant and never told me." With shaking hands, I showed him a photo on my phone. "Is this you?" He stared at the image, eyes welling. That was the summer before she left. I wrote on the back that I would love her forever. "I found it when I was 7, I said. "I've spent my life wondering about the father I thought was gone." He reached across the table and took my hand gently. "Kate, I swear, I never knew you existed. If I had known, I would have done anything to find you both." "But why would she lie?" "Because she was young, scared, and probably pressured into believing I wasn't right for her," he said softly. "Have thought she was protecting you." I thought about my mom, the quiet sadness she carried, how she never dated or remarried. "She never got over you," I murmured. "She's been alone all these years." "And I never stopped loving her," Garrett replied. "I built a company and unimaginable wealth, but I never found anyone who made me feel the way Linda did. I never stopped hoping I'd see her again." We sat in silence, both trying to absorb what we had just learned. "Are we certain?" "You're really my father?" I finally asked. "Kate, you have my eyes," he replied. "I'm sure you're my daughter, and if you're open to it, I'd like to get to know you. And I want to see your mother again, to understand why she kept this secret for 24 years. She's going to panic when she finds out. She'll think you resent her for keeping me from you." "I could never hate her," Garrett said. "I'm hurt knowing I missed your entire childhood, but I understand why she felt she had to protect you on her own." I looked at him, my father, standing in a small-town diner, feeling a mix of anger, relief, and sadness for the years we lost. I had countless questions, decades of them, but now, at least, we had time. That evening at home, I waited for my mom to return from work. I called in sick to my shift, claiming a family emergency, which wasn't entirely untrue. When she walked in at 6:30 p.m., exhausted from the dry cleaner, I sat at the kitchen table with the old photograph in front of me. "Kate, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Mom, we need to talk about my father." Her face went pale as she sat across from me. "Honey, your father died before you were born. Why bring this up now?" "Because I met him today. Mom, I met Garrett Kane." She froze, staring at the photograph. "That's impossible," she whispered. "What have I done?" "Why did you lie? Why tell me he was dead?" "Because I was 18, scared and ashamed," she said. "My parents convinced me he'd only hold me back. When I found out I was pregnant, I was already living with my aunt. I was too afraid to reach out. But you could have told me as I got older. You could have tried to contact him. How could I? She asked. How do you call someone after 24 years and say, you have a daughter I hid from you? How do I explain that I let him think I stopped loving him when I never did? I held her hand. He never stopped loving you either. He never married. He's been alone, like you. He must hate me, she whispered. He doesn't. He's hurt. But he wants to talk. He wants to see you. I can't face him. Not after everything. Yes, you can, I said. You owe it to him, to me, and to yourself. You've carried this secret long enough. The next day, I arranged for them to meet at the diner during a slow hour. I watched from behind the counter as my mother entered in a simple blue dress, nervous but determined. Garrett was already there in the same booth. When he saw her, he stood slowly, his expression full of past emotion. Linda, he said quietly. Garrett, she replied. They stood facing each other, two people separated by decades of fear and misunderstanding. You look the same, he said. No, I'm older, tired, and I've made mistakes, she answered. We both have, he said. But we have a daughter now, a strong, wonderful daughter. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I kept her from you. I'm sorry you thought I didn't love you. I know why you did it, he said softly. You were protecting her and yourself. We can't change the past, only what we do next. I watched as they talked for hours, sharing memories, regrets, and the separate lives they lived while still holding on to each other in different ways. My mother's expression softened as she saw the same person she loved beneath his success. My father lit up hearing about my childhood and the milestones he missed. When they finally stood to leave, they no longer seemed burdened by the past. They looked like two people ready to reconnect. Kate, my father said as they approached the counter, we have a lot to work through and time to make up. But first, I want to do something for you. You don't need to, I said. Knowing you're here is enough. It's not, he replied. I missed every major moment of your life. I can't change that, but I can make sure you never lack opportunities again. What does that mean? It means you're not staying at community college. You'll attend any university you choose, studying whatever you want, and you won't worry about finances again. You're my daughter, Kate. You're a Kane, if you want to be. I don't want this just because you feel guilty. I'm not offering it out of guilt, he said. It's yours because you're my daughter. I finally get to give you what I couldn't before. 6 months later, I was enrolled at Columbia University, studying business with a minor in nonprofit work. My parents were rebuilding their relationship slowly, but it was obvious they still loved each other deeply. My father supported my education financially and emotionally, helping me move into my dorm, attending orientation, and calling weekly just to talk. My mother left her job and became director of the Kane Foundation, a nonprofit helping disadvantaged youth access education. One evening, sitting in my father's penthouse overlooking the city, he said, I used to think success meant building something large, weaving a legacy in business. And now, I asked, now I know the real legacy is what you leave in the people you love. I built an empire, but the most important thing I ever created was you, even before I knew. Do you ever think about how life would have been if Mom told you from the start? Every day, he said. But then I think about who you are, the strength and values your mother gave you. If life had been easier, you wouldn't be the same person. You really believe that? I know it. You learned resilience and empathy, things money can't buy. Months passed, and life continued to change. My parents eventually remarried in the small church where they once planned to marry decades earlier. It was a simple ceremony, with only close family present, but it felt complete. "Do you take this woman as your wife?" the pastor asked. "I do," my father said, voice steady. "I always have." When they kissed, it felt like the end of years of separation and the beginning of something restored. They weren't teenagers anymore, but their love was still as strong as it had been at 17. At the reception afterward, my father pulled me aside. "Kate, I have something for you," he said, handing me a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a pendant that left me speechless. It was a miniature version of the photo I'd cherished. For years, the picture of my parents by the lake, now engraved in gold. I had it made from the original photo. I wanted you to have something that represents not just where we came from, but where we're going. That picture brought us back together, Kate. In many ways, you've been the bridge between your mother and me your whole life, even when none of us realized it. I hugged him tightly. This man who had gone from a stranger to my father in just a few months. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know." Years later, I returned to Murphy's Diner, not as an employee, but as a customer. I had graduated from Columbia with honors and was launching my own nonprofit organization to help single mothers access education and job training. My father was my primary investor, but more importantly, my strongest supporter. Pete, my former manager, walked over with a wide grin. "Well, look who's back. How's the fancy college graduate doing?" "Good, Pete. Really good." "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." "Oh yeah? What's that?" "I'm starting a foundation, and I want Murphy's to be one of our partner locations. We plan to offer job training and educational assistance to people in the community who need it. Are you interested?" Pete's eyes brightened. "You mean helping people earn their GEDs and learn new skills?" "Exactly. We'll also offer childcare during classes and help with job placement afterward. I want people to have opportunities like I did, without having to wait decades for their lives to change." "Count me in," Pete said immediately. "This place has always been more than serving food. It's about serving the community." As I sat in that familiar red vinyl booth, looking around the diner where everything changed, I reflected on how small moments shape our lives. A signature on a check, a photo hidden in a book, a secret kept for 24 years. My phone buzzed. My father texting. "Proud of you, kiddo. Can't wait to see what you build next." I smiled and replied, "Thanks, Dad. I learned from the best." But the truth was, I learned from both of them. From my father, I learned vision, determination, and how to build something meaningful from nothing. From my mother, I learned sacrifice, resilience, and what it means to protect the people you love, even at a cost. From both, I learned that love doesn't expire. Sometimes, the most important connections simply wait for the right moment to return. The signature that once seemed like a tiny detail, a name written in elegant handwriting, ended up unlocking a lifetime of love that had been hidden. It reunited two people who never stopped loving each other, and it gave me the father I never thought I'd meet. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't worked that shift, if Garrett had visited a different diner, or if I hadn't noticed his signature. But then I remember what my father said about timing. "Everything happens when it's meant to, Kat. Your mother and I weren't ready when we were young. We needed to grow up first. And you needed to become the strong woman you are before having a father like me in your life." He was right. Even though it took 24 years, the timing finally aligned. We all had to become who we needed to be before becoming a family. Now, as I help other families rebuild their futures, as I watch my parents reconnect, and as I build my own life on the lessons they taught me, I'm grateful for every turn that led us here. The signature that changed everything wasn't just ink on paper. It represented love that waited patiently for its moment. It proved that some bonds survive years of distance and still bring people back together. And it reminded me that extraordinary discoveries often happen in ordinary places, like a small town diner where a waitress recognizes her father's handwriting and changes 3 lives forever. A beautiful reminder of love that endures and the sacrifices we make to protect those we care about. What do you think about Linda's choice to hide Kate's existence from Garrett? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, please support the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing for more inspiring stories about family, forgiveness, and second chances. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.